The victims all gave very different descriptions of his personality, his voice, his mannerisms, etc.
Crazy.
One of them was like, oh, he had a German accent, like crazy stuff. So
how do you pull that off?
I don't know.
This is where I get frustrated.
Don't even open that can of worms.
Like horrifying.
Horrifying. Not allowed to cry or have emotions in your house.
Like, do you really need to know what Zemoglophical 8 is? Or
oh, Jessica.
Everyone has a favorite. Everyone does. Okay, so when I was like, I would say like 8th grade through current, I would always be into like these mental healthy, like kind of like alternative films. Where like, I don't know, it's like angst or like drugs or depression, eating disorders, whatever. Anyways. And I was always fascinated by it, probably because I was trying to like understand myself.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. But one of them that really just like fascinates me is formerly multiple personality disorder.
Yeah.
Currently dissociative identity disorder.
Right.
And I feel like the mainstream movie right now is, or not right now, it's like a few years old, but it's Split with James McAvoy and Anya. I thought it was Anna, but it's Anya Taylor-Joy. And he's like, I don't know, he's like how many personalities? He like captures these 3 girls.
A lot, yeah.
But he has a lot. And like gender fluid or whatever, like age fluid. He has a psychiatrist. Anyways, and so today we're going to deep dive into dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read the official criteria from the DSM, which is like our diagnostic manual, so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it is a disruption of identity characterized by 2 or more distinct personality states, recurrent gaps in recall of everyday events, important personal information, and or traumatic events that are not consistent with just forgetting that people do on a day-to-day basis. And then it has to cause some kind of distress or impairment to the person.
Okay, question. So, you just said it can't be like determined, or what did you say? Something by forgetting?
It can't just be like ordinary forgetting. Like, oh, I forgot I had eggs this morning instead of cereal.
But what if it's like, I don't really remember much between age 5 through 14?
No, because it's like they're not remembering things like
that happened hours ago.
Yeah.
So it's not
or like yesterday.
Okay,
right.
Got it.
Right.
Go.
It's not long-term memory.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that's the official criteria, and it also cannot be due to like substance intoxication.
Because there's a big link between substance use or abuse and dissociating.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then it can't be due like some other medical condition that would cause memory issues. Like dementia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, are there any other ones?
Probably
like
if you
a tumor
had,
placement?
yeah,
like,
that's what I was gonna say. If you had like certain tumors in your brain,
and it could be like,
or there's some medical issues where you have like super high levels of like copper or weird elements, and that'll fuck up your brain.
That's like a House episode.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's the official criteria. Just some things about dissociative amnesia, which is like one of the key features of this.
Let's tell everyone what dissociative means.
Okay, so dissociative means, and I'm going to say what it means to us as mental health professionals, right? That means that you are not present. You have like a break in your consciousness or reality, right? So you're like not present in the current moment. Okay,
what does that look like?
It depends. Like you can see someone dissociate and they just like look super out of it. Like you can't like get through to them. You know, you're like, hello,
okay, wait, I
hello.
want to like try.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and dissociate.
Okay, but we're talking and it's normal, and then dissociating, we kind of just look like
you're just like staring off. Right. Yes.
Like mid-sentence like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you come back and you
like hello.
I guess if you had dissociative identity disorder, yes. But it seems like for the most part, these people are not, like it's not, well, we can debate if this is even a real thing. But if someone actually has this disorder, they're not like dissociating into another personality like while you're having a conversation with them. It's like they're waking up and they're a different person.
Wait,
right?
what? So when I just did that little bit,
Yeah.
Whoever I was, I would come back as that same person?
Okay. So there's a difference between like dissociating out in the world and someone having dissociative identity disorder, right? So you can dissociate because you have PTSD, right?
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like out of it for like a few minutes and then you snap back and you're like, what happened, right? That doesn't mean you have dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
Dissociative identity disorder means you dissociate into a different person.
So what I just
a different
did
personality
was dissociate into a different personality.
Yes.
If I would have come back and said, wait, what were we saying? That would be...
If you had an actual diagnosis where we could say, yes, you're likely dissociating, we could say that's dissociating. Or you could just be like, out of it, right? So a lot of people will just like me, all of us, we kind of just space out and stare off. And I'm not dissociating, I'm just like out of it, right?
How do you discriminate between the two?
I think history is super important. Like the history of the person's mental health or life experiences, trauma, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So if a person has no real history of trauma or mental health issues, I'm a lot less likely to call it dissociating, right? It might just be like, if a kid's in class zoning out, they're just zoning out. That doesn't mean they're dissociating, right? So I think people like in the community use that term very loosely, dissociating, but it means something different to us as mental health professionals.
What, I mean, are the people, what, like teachers or like who's
I think that like in pop culture, there's a lot of talk about like, I dissociate, right?
Yeah.
But like we as mental health professionals might not use that term when we're looking at that person.
Why are they using that? Like how?
Because it's trendy. Because it's cool.
But what evidence are they saying they have that they dissociate?
Probably none. They're just like.
They're just saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to the definition.
Okay. So what you were saying when you like pretend zoned out and then came back as someone different. So that's not typical of dissociative identity disorder. It's not like you're having a conversation and then you zone out and you come back as a British woman, right? It's more like something happens in your life, some kind of incident, and then the next day you wake up and you are a different person for a day. And then you go to sleep and you wake up and you're personality 3, right?
So there has to be like a triggering event.
Okay, yeah. So
right.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. And is that part of the definition?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, go.
Okay. So just to talk about what these people experience, if this is even a real thing. Okay. What they experience is, they are themselves one day, like they are Jessica one day, and then they are Joe the next day, and they have while they are Joe, they have no memory of Jessica or Jessica's life. Okay. So that's called dissociative amnesia. So it's like you have this gap in memory of details about your personal life in what they call dependable memory. So that's like what you did that day, what you did the day before. You forget things that you have known how to do forever, like
tie a shoe.
Yeah, ride a bike, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they also like if there's any evidence of like what they did, if Joe has any evidence of what like Jessica did in her life, he's confused. Like, wait, what is that? Like if Jessica wrote a check or something, he's like, what the fuck is that? Who's Jessica?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So if people really have these switches in personality or identity can be triggered by things like, okay, so I should say most of these people have a history of like significant trauma in their childhood trauma. Yeah. Okay. So
that's like sexual,
sexual abuse. Yeah. Yes. Like severe the vast neglect. Majority. Yeah. Okay. So these switches in personality can be triggered by, interestingly, being removed from that traumatic situation.
Oh, that kind of, keep going.
Interestingly. It can be triggered by like if the person has children and then their children reach the age at which they were abused, that can trigger a personality switch.
Interesting.
Yeah. It can be triggered by any kind of traumatic experiences that's not related to their past trauma. Like say they were abused as a kid and then at 35 they get into a car accident, which is traumatic, right? And it's not related to the abuse, but it's triggering that personality switch. And then also by death of their abuser.
So, like, is there any connection between, like with the car accident example? Like, 35-year-old was abused for years as a kid. 35, she gets in a car accident. Is there some connection between, like, your amygdala getting activated, which then activates whatever it is to switch?
Yeah, I would think it's like something in that like limbic system, hypothalamus, amygdala, like those are all the things we think about in like trauma and like storing traumatic memories and stuff, right? So it's like your brain has like its coping mechanism to deal with the trauma is to dissociate and like shut off that part of your brain, right? So if like the trauma happened to Jessica when Jessica was a kid, then that her brain's coping mechanism when she has another trauma is to dissociate and become Jonathan, right? So it's like shutting off that part.
Yes, okay. But like why, like, how does your brain how does someone find that coping mechanism?
I don't know. I mean, it's obviously, if this is real, and like, I don't even know, I'm going to go ahead and say like, I don't even know if this is real. So it's like hard for me to like defend it as a diagnosis because I'm like, I don't know, this might be a bunch of bullshit.
Well, what are the, like how common is it and stuff?
It's not, I mean, it's like super rare. So, you know, okay, when I was reading the DSM, like description of this, and it said the prevalence was 1.5%. I was like, what the F? Like, that's not that uncommon.
Oh, it's not?
No, 1.5%. They didn't say world or US. I'm kind of assuming it was US, but I'm not sure. But like 1.5% means 1.5 people in 100. That's not like that uncommon, you know? Like I thought it was going to be like 0.2%, you know?
Okay.
So it's not that uncommon, according to, you know, whatever research is out there. What were we saying about before that?
Like, well, if you believe it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But like how common is it? Is it like more girls and boys or?
So, I saw both. Okay, I saw like conflicting information on that. In the DSM, it says 1.6% prevalence in males and 1.4% in females. But then somewhere else I saw females were way more likely to have it, which that I believe more.
I do too.
I think it's probably way more likely in females. But maybe what might be a factor in that statistic is that women are more likely to present with just like dissociating, and men are more likely to present with criminal violent behavior. So I wonder if men are just being caught more, you know?
Yeah.
Right? So like that's going to be something that's flagged more or presenting more, you know, versus like a woman just dissociating that might fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Right? 90% of people with DID, dissociative identity disorder, in the US, Canada, and Europe experienced childhood physical or sexual abuse. Interestingly, some other like childhood traumas that could trigger it: multiple painful early life medical procedures. Childhood prostitution, that's super sad. Exposure to war and terrorism. So abuse is the most common.
That's because that's like what's up in America. Like if this was done in like Iraq, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Not that they don't believe in DID over there. But is there like tip? You know how like schizophrenia is typically produced at age whatever. What like is there one for this? Like is it?
So I didn't see anything about like a specific age range, but basically kids are generally not going to present with full-blown dissociative identity disorder. Kids are not going to present with like multiple personalities. Kids may have dissociation in general, but this is an adult disorder for sure. So I don't know if there's like a specific age where it comes on, but adulthood.
Okay. All right. So when did like so Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, did we get a date on that? It was like
1800s? I'm going to go with 1800s. Dr. Jekyll
I'll put it
Mr.
in here. Here it is. Okay, 1886.
There you go.
Okay, I mean, I feel like everyone had to read this book in school.
Yeah.
Or we did in our age group. And I feel like this is where, I guess, like it sparked it or whatever. Like,
yeah, that might be the first like mention in
social
pop culture
correct.
or whatever.
Yeah. And then like the impacts of like well, not mushrooms, but like acid.
Yeah.
LSD or whatever.
Substances in general.
But isn't like acid different in terms of like fucking your brain up?
Yeah. So I guess like, are you referring to when people are on it or when they've done it a bunch and they've like fried their brain? You know?
Both. And I guess I'm like, what did I hear once when I was younger? It's like,
I mean, it's a hallucinogen.
Right. It's like you can have a, not like a flashback, but, or maybe it is.
Yes.
Like, and
yes.
Yeah. What is that called?
Usually that's when people have done it a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and they've like really fucked their brain.
Yeah.
Yes. So it can cause things like flashbacks. Yeah. So there's like, you know, there's all these people that like, apparently the government experimented on them with LSD and stuff and just like totally fried their brains.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Talk about, you had a patient that had...
I had a patient.
Like, you don't see this often, though.
No.
Yeah.
No. Like, never. This was the first person I had ever heard in a clinical setting tell me anything about multiple personalities. I will say I pretty immediately knew it was not valid.
Yeah. What? So how did you
Okay,
you know?
so from what I remember about this person, she was probably in her 20s. And what she would describe was like she'd be driving a car and she would be switching between personalities while driving, but she was aware of it. Like her person, I can't remember what her name is. We'll call
Jessica.
her Sally. We'll call her Sally.
Okay, Sally.
Lessen the confusion. Okay, so Sally was aware of when she would switch personalities and could fully describe them to me. So that out the gate, you know, is not valid, right?
Yeah.
Because if she truly had dissociative identity disorder,
she would know.
Sally, would not know that there were other personalities. She wouldn't know anything about them. They wouldn't know about her or each other, right? So there's something, this is something I read an article about, like, how, you know, dissociative identity was super popular on TikTok for a while, okay? And, like, people would do these videos where they're, like, presenting themselves. Sorry, I'm skipping it.
No, I want to, like...
They would, like, present themselves with their symptoms of dissociative identity disorder. And one of the things that the article pointed out that showed, like, these are not valid is something called plurality, which is, like, someone who truly has dissociative identity disorder does not know anything about their other personalities, right? And they're not all presenting at the same time, okay?
Right.
And the personalities don't know about each other.
Okay.
Plurality is like when they are all presenting at the same time and they know about each other. So if someone is displaying that, then you kind of know that they don't really have it, right?
Well, what do they have? Borderline?
I mean... Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's what you have to figure out as a clinician is like, okay, well, then what is really going on?
Okay, with that one, did you keep seeing, like, what was your clinical, what would you have diagnosed her with?
I think she had borderline. Yes. I think she had borderline. And the key was, like, I would always listen to her, but I wasn't feeding into it, right? Because you don't want to feed that beast. So if she had gone to another medical professional that maybe didn't have mental health training, they most likely would have been totally freaked out.
Yeah.
And that's what feeds it, right? Because then they're getting attention.
Yeah, because that's like, we need to do an episode on borderline personality disorder. Yeah. Are we? Or that's on the list? Because I feel like we talked a lot about that.
We do need to do one on that. Because it's
bane of my existence.
I know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then you had... So did you have that patient for a long time?
Not that long. I can't remember what ended up happening.
Probably.
Or it was because I left that practice.
Oh, that too.
I can't remember what ended up happening with that patient, but it was mostly like personality related things. Like there was nothing I could really treat with medication. Yeah. You know?
What would you like? Like, there's nothing to stop the switch.
So I don't know. My guess would be, since this is so uncommon, it's not like there's a ton of research on like what is the best practice method for this disorder. What's the best type of therapy? My guess would be trauma-related therapy would probably be the best approach because the vast majority of these people have a history of trauma. And the reason why they're dissociating is because of trauma. So you got to treat the trauma. So that would be my guess.
But like, do you think like surely they would need to be on a med?
I guess if they're having like anxiety, but they might not, right?
Yeah.
If they're truly switching personalities and they don't know that the other personalities exist or that they're switching, they might not have anxiety about it.
Yeah,
right?
This is true. Yeah.
But so there was that case. So there's this guy, Billy Milligan, who was he probably for a while was like the most infamous, I'm not going to say famous, but like infamous person to claim to have multiple personality disorder, which is what they used to call
Billy
it.
who?
Billy Milligan.
Kind of like
okay, so he kidnapped, robbed, and raped 3 women in the Ohio State University area in the 70s. Okay. And the victims all gave very different descriptions of his personality, his voice, his mannerisms, etc.
Crazy.
Like one of them was like, oh, he had a German accent, like crazy stuff. So
how do you pull that off?
I don't know.
That's another thing. It's like, what if like, surely there is some, German accent, or was he speaking German?
German accent.
Okay.
I guess he was speaking English to the person because they're in America, but I don't know.
I mean, but like, I wonder if that's a thing.
How do you
like,
pull
if
off
you
a German
like,
accent?
Or if you like switch and like you're speaking French. That's not a thing.
But is that a thing? I don't know. That's a great question.
And like, how do you, so it's like, what? Anyways, okay, keep going.
So after he got arrested, he was seen by a psychiatrist, diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder.
And this was in the 70s.
This was in the 70s.
So then it was multiple personalities.
Yes, yes. Okay. And there's like videos of him. You could look it up. There's videos of him like switching and stuff. And he apparently had 24 different personalities.
Get the fuck out of here.
So the defense attorney argued like it shouldn't be Billy should not be at fault because his other personalities committed these crimes. That didn't work for them.
Right.
So, well, actually, no, wait, I take that back. He was found not guilty, but he was committed to like a forensic psychiatric hospital for like a decade.
Yeah.
But while he was there, apparently whatever therapy they did allowed him to what they call integrate all of the personalities back into Billy. So, so he no longer met criteria for multiple personality disorder.
What are they doing there?
I don't know. But there was a lot of controversy amongst mental health professionals in the country about him and whether or not he really had this diagnosis.
Oh my gosh.
And that like, and then he ultimately didn't have to serve prison time for it, right?
Because he was in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to know what they did to him.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a super interesting case. You can look it up. You can watch videos of him.
I'm sure there's a movie.
You can listen to him like switching into these different personalities. It's pretty fascinating. I think there is a movie about him.
Yeah, so it's DiCaprio.
Yeah.
The Crowded Room.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it. But I've seen the videos of him. It's creepy.
Oh, I'm going to watch this.
It's super creepy.
So weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so takeaways. Like, are people still trying to act like they have it? Like now?
I think that the wave of we're probably on the other side of the wave of the TikTok trend of dissociative identity disorder. It was super hot, I want to say like 1 or 2 years ago. But it's less trendy now. Yeah. I would say a lot of people claim to dissociate though. That's something I hear
in what
really
context?
Often. Like if they're seeing me in my office, they will say like I dissociate and describe it. And a lot of times I'm like, that's not dissociating. That ain't dissociating.
What is it?
They're just zoning out. They're just out of it,
I wonder why they're saying dissociate.
Because it's trendy. It's just like how a lot of people claim to have tics, like we talked about in a past episode, or claim to have autism, or, everybody has ADHD. And it's like, no, it's way more complex than that. Yeah. You're zoning out. You're not dissociating. So I would say, we just have to be skeptical as mental health professionals and like parents, If kids are claiming to have multiple personalities, they probably don't.
Yeah.
They probably don't.
Because you're not supposed to know that you do.
Yeah. Yes.
And like, honestly, if a kid or young adult or whatever, is coming up to a teacher, a parent, or whatever, and saying, I have multiple personalities, I'm assuming that kid gets in trouble a lot or like does things that like they don't want to be held accountable for.
Or are they just like maybe socially not doing so hot and they're looking for attention?
Yeah.
You know?
That.
Like there's something going on.
Yeah. Or just like identity formation where you like, I mean, one day you wake, I mean, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who you are. Like, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a punk, and then, you know, but you don't have DID.
Right, exactly.
You're just figuring it out.
You know, you have to be skeptical as an adult, but then also try to figure out, like, why are they doing this? You know, something's going on.
Yep.
And they're needing some kind of attention or, you know, escape from reality or whatever it is.
Yeah. They're coping in this way for a reason.
Right.
All behavior is purposeful. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, stay tuned for a borderline personality disorder one because I feel like that hits like
that's going to be like a 4-parter or something.
I know. Like DID is weird and annoying and fascinating and intricate and whatever, but like borderline's common.
Oh, yeah.
It's common and it's terrible.
I know. And we could just like go so in depth on that.
I know. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, see ya.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Little Brain Campaign.
Please like, subscribe, and follow.
See you next time.